Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kara, for joining us today. We're going to talk a little bit about the ROI of personalization. And Kara and her team were kind enough to do some really cool research for us so that we could better understand what is that true impact and that value. I'm here today with Kara Manatt. She is the EVP of Intelligence Solutions at MAGNA. And MAGNA is the intelligence arm within IPG Media Brands. And Kara leads a team that focuses on custom research and solutions for brands, really helping them figure out how to be better about buying decisions. And she's really focused on using next-gen technologies to actually test effectiveness of ad products. So thank you for being here today with us, Kara.
Happy to be here. Thanks so much.
Thank you. So when we're thinking about what type of research topic do we want to talk about, we were thinking about what's happening in the macro economy. So there's a lot of pressures on CMOs, especially today, for every single dollar that is spent. We also see a lot of pressure on the consumers with the fluctuating macros month over month, day over day, week over week that are particularly impactful. So we wanted to talk about what are the things that we need to do to create more authentic messaging, more connected experiences with our customers. So Kara, let's spoil it for the team. Let's share some of the findings that you guys had.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I think there's a common misconception that inflation is primarily impacting just the lower income segments. And our research really shows that it really is affecting everybody. Everybody is feeling the pressure from increasing prices. And I would say actually that middle income bracket especially. Secondly, I would say as we are thinking about all the different ways that brands can create authentic connections, have that one-on-one conversation with consumers, what we found is that when brands personalize and customize their messaging to the individual, they are significantly increasing their chances that that consumer will choose their brand over a competitor when it comes time to purchase. And then lastly, kind of one of my favorite little findings, maybe because it's a little negative, if you're going to do personalization, you really have to do it right. So we have some data that really underscores the fact that you have to have a good strategy, you have to have accurate data, or you might as well not do it at all.
Amazing. Well, now that we spoiled it for everyone, can you talk a little bit about the methodology that you guys use to come to these findings?
Absolutely. So we typically, in this case, used a two-pronged approach. First and foremost, we wanted to kind of take a step back and hear directly from consumers. We wanted to know, how do they feel about personalization today? How do they feel about brands using their data to personalize messages? That's really important for us. And so we ran a survey against a nationally representative sample, talked to over 1,000 people. We're not going to talk as much about consumer sentiment today, but do want to mention that we have consistently kind of tracked this over the last 10, 15 years. And personalization today from the consumer perspective really is table stakes. They expect it. The second portion, which you can see on the other side of the slide, if you actually go back one, sorry, I'm going a little slow, is the meatier portion of the analysis where we really needed to parse apart how effective different messages were. Like what strategies work best, what kind of impact can we expect on how much people are willing to pay, and again, how likely they are to purchase. And on the next slide, you can actually see all the meat behind it, which shows us all the different types of data that we used. We looked at online behavior, past purchases people have made, life stage, which I always feel the need to distinguish between demographics. Life stage is way more than your age and gender. Psychology, and then we also compared against kind of what if you went out with a broad message, so no personalization at all.
Amazing. And I think when we were going through the findings of the study, there's a couple of key points that we thought were particularly interesting that we want to dive a little bit deeper today. Kara's going to kind of talk you through what we saw within the data, and we might share some things that we've learned from both of our organizations over time.
Absolutely. So again, kind of going back to that price sensitivity, when we talk to people about how they think about their purchases and whether or not they are more sensitive to the price of products today, we found again, that pressure is happening across all income groups. It's not just the lower income groups. Regardless of how you slice these income breaks, it's there. And it really does span verticals as well. I hope that's not my positioning of that. It really does span verticals as well, but I would say especially for everyday kind of regular purchases like groceries, we see people really feeling the pressure.
Yeah, and interesting enough, we have a Zeta Economic Index that we actually track month over month, where the trends, we saw a very similar pattern in our data that was more pressure, especially on the middle income. I think that was the group that had the highest percent increase time over time, where there's a lot more pressure on those specific consumers that are feeling it in different social economic groups, where the higher end feel it a little bit less, but especially middle income and lower are feeling it much more.
Absolutely.
There's also some really interesting like financial and metrics that we thought were really interesting to kind of go through as well.
Absolutely, and we've studied the effects of personalization for a long time, but primarily until now, focused on kind of brand building. So how does it make people feel about the brand? How connected do people feel to the brand when the message is personalized? So we were thrilled to finally be able to get at some of those shorter term metrics like their likelihood to purchase and pick the brand over competitors. And so this is, the data point, which is, and actually the next data point is going to really be the data point, but this is one of the data points, which is that when you use personalized messaging, you increase your chances again of being chosen over the competitor. And this is above and beyond just regular advertising. We know ads work, but when you personalize it, you get a 7% increase in that.
Yeah, and what I think is really interesting here is that consumers have so many options today. There's so many competitors, and each consumer considers different competitors as well. We actually created something with like generative personas to create mutually exclusive personas of customers so that we could actually personalize each of the marketing strategies, where there's different types of competitors to consider, there's different need states that really tries to personalize as well.
Absolutely, that's great. Here is the big slide I was talking about, which is when we started to look at different audience segments to see kind of where are we seeing more or less impact, one very much stood out to us, and that is people who are closest to making that purchase. Obviously, as we are reaching, all of our customers and potential customers, we're bound to reach people who are closer versus kind of further away from that decision point. And it was really interesting to us that we saw 3+ times the impact among people who are going to buy today, buy tomorrow. So it really is a short-term impact that really impacts the bottom line.
Yep, absolutely. Highlighting how important it is to really find that person in that exact moment in time that matters.
Yep. And then also, this was kind of my favorite part, which was the willingness to pay. And the whole idea behind this is a lot of brands, of course, are facing a lot of challenges given the price sensitivity, right? They are facing customers who may just decide not to purchase at all, may decide to hold off on their purchase till later and kind of spread their purchases apart. Or what I was really interested in is, the brands who have to compete against kind of private label. They may get, people choosing a private label brand over them. And so how much people are willing to pay for a product was really important. And it was interesting for us to see that people actually would be willing to pay more for the same product when the brand has had that one-on-one connection with them and created that relationship with personalized messaging. We saw it across verticals. These numbers may look small, but if you crunch the numbers, which we did, on the actual revenue for these brands, it's huge.
Yeah, and I think what's really funny here, the verticals that you guys have highlighted are the areas where consumers are so discerning. The technology products that you purchase, what type of wine are you a big fan of? It's very funny to actually see that in the data itself.
And the one that everybody's talking about, the food,
Yes.
groceries,
Exactly, 100%.
I also think it's important to note that you shouldn't just go out with a single strategy, a single lever that you're pulling when it comes to data, because we are multifaceted people, right? I'm a female. I'm also of a certain age. I also am a mom, but I have different interests than other moms my age. And so we highly recommend that brands really pull multiple levers and use a holistic approach to these different types of data.
Yeah, and we say the same thing all the time as well, where don't look at one signal in isolation. That could be a false positive, that could just be one blip in time, where it's more important to be able to see the whole context around the 360-degree view of that customer.
Absolutely.
And the next section we're going to talk about is a little bit fun in terms of the negative side of it all.
The negative side, which we didn't actually necessarily set out to test, but as we were building it, we said, let's work this in. Because inevitably, some brands are going to get it wrong. So what happens when some brands get it wrong? Well, we found that it would have been better to just not do it at all. It would have been better to just go out with a broad message that hopefully, appeals to everyone. Because again, we know basic advertising works. We're just trying to amplify the performance with personalization. And so we actually saw, less impact, 43% less impact when brands were getting it wrong, which I think, again, underscores how important it is to have a good strategy. You don't have to have the right strategy. It's not just one strategy you're like hunting for. There's a lot of different strategies brands can use, but you need to be really thoughtful about it. And you, of course, have to have accurate data to base it on.
Yeah, and I was telling Kara about a funny story that happened to me, and I'll share that in a moment, but I'd love to hear about if you've had any experiences about incorrect personalization.
I have plenty, and even if you ask people that are not in this industry, they can tell you like that. I'll give you a recent one for me, which is I have a coworker who is expecting, and a few months ago we had a baby shower for her. And my kids are older, they're 8 and 10, so I don't really know what the best baby, the hot baby gift is. So I was asking my sister this, doing some searching online, but of course I'm not spending months on this, right? I, do a little searching and then I buy it. Yeah. But the internet thinks I'm pregnant, so I still get surprise. Ads for products, and I made that purchase so long ago.
Exactly. And I was sharing with Kara, I was watching La Volta. If anyone's familiar, it's basically like Tour de France, but in Spain. And so it's like a 4-hour long race, like for each one of these legs. And I kept getting served Spanish language ads. Almost every single one of them. I would say like 80% of the ads I got were in Spanish. And so what did that do to me as a consumer? First few times I'm like, okay, whatever. And then the next hour in, I was like, okay, this is actually kind of frustrating to me as a consumer, to the point that I tried to go on the streaming app to find out how can I opt out of certain languages and tell you what language I actually speak. And so you can imagine how many times that happens to people where they want to be more connected and create more authenticity, but a huge miss because they took the name of the program and thought, oh, she must speak Spanish. But what we try to do is we actually look at deterministic language signals. What type of language are people reading content in? What is the programming language? They would know that the program was actually in English, so don't serve me a Spanish language ad. So it actually creates worse consumer experiences as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So today, hopefully, we were able to share some of the really interesting data points that Kara and her team were able to uncover for us, where we were able to understand that price truly matters, especially in this day and this time. The willingness to pay is getting lower and lower, and so we need to be more authentic and more personalized with that messaging. The second piece is that personalization is truly multidimensional. It's not one signal in one moment in time. It's really having the whole context of the experience and that way that you want to engage in the moment of time that truly matter. And then the third thing is, if you don't believe in the data that you have and you're not going to be confident that you're accurately targeting people and personalizing that, it's better not to do it at all, because it's actually creating worse consumer experiences and actually might hurt your brand more than it's trying to create more authentic relationships. So thank you, Kara, and your team for creating this wonderful research that we're going to have on all of our websites, I'm sure, soon.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.